In this review we're going to take a look at Deadly Premonition for the Xbox 360. This here is the PAL cover for the actual game. I did think the US version had a much nicer cover, which I'll try and find a picture of and include. Now in this game you're going to take over the role of Francis York Morgan, an FBI agent who's called the small town of Greenvale, while he's tracking the Red Seed murders. The actual plot of Deadly Premonition has got some really good twists and turns which keeps changing the pace of the story throughout the whole game, and you're going to be guessing till the end with some of the aspects of it. Now this game has a very wide range of gameplay. You'll be trying lots of different styles during the actual game, mostly third person, but it'll switch to some first person segments. You'll be doing some driving, some various mini games, you'll be talking to different people, interviewing witnesses, searching crime scenes, profiling crime scenes. One thing Deadly Premonition does have, which often gets criticised for, is the clunkiness of the controls. Now these are something you get used to, and the sort of slow reaction time does give a sense of sort of fear as you play in the actual game, so once you kind of get used to it, it does add to the gameplay. One thing you're going to have from the start is the handgun, which I'd advise staying with because it's one of the most sort of fun guns that you get throughout the game, but you're going to also have different types of guns and different melee weapons as well, so there's quite a good range of combat. Most of the time in Deadly Premonition you're going to be in this really close-up, third-person over-the-shoulder camera shot. However, at other times it's going to change to different views, one of which is this, feels like a classic sort of Resident Evil, slightly top-down angular camera view, where you're going to be walking around. There are other modes as well throughout the game, but mostly you're going to spend it in this third-person. That was just a quick example of the combat. You'll see here you actually have the auto aim, which kind of helps a lot with the clunky controls because you just target straight for the individual that's coming at you. The enemies are kind of creepy. They're not the most original characters. They have a sort of Silent Hill twist to them, but it is quite, the atmosphere builds up into quite a scary atmosphere in some sections of the game. Driving's going to play a big element in Deadly Premonition, as you're going to be driving to and from all the different locations. Now the cars do have a sort of damage meter that you need to get repaired if it gets too badly damaged, and you're also going to need to top up on petrol from time to time as well. Again, this is something like the eating and sleeping that you think is going to cause a big problem, but actually is a sort of light and enjoyable touch to the gameplay itself. That's going to be important as you're driving around is the talk option, which you can maybe see at the bottom of the screen here. Now this occurs sometimes when you're driving around by yourself, your character will talk to yourself, which I won't go too much into until you play the game, or talk to other passengers that you might have or might have not in the car at the moment. Other gameplay aspects include the sort of cutscene button pressing segments where you're required to hit certain buttons at certain times to survive various attacks in the cutscenes or carry out various actions. Another aspect of gameplay is going to be a sort of hide and seek style, which I've heard of in other games but haven't actually played. I think things like Clock Tower might also include this, where you can actually fight the enemy. You've got a split screen, your view and the enemy's view, and you've just got to find a place to hide and try and hold your breath until they pass by. One thing you do have in Deadly Premonition is a kind of eating and sleeping necessity throughout the game. Now, when I first saw this I was thinking, oh god, I'm going to have to be eating and sleeping constantly, like playing The Sims. It's actually a little different in this because you do eat and sleep as part of the main story. So apart from the occasional maybe snack or nap throughout the game, most of these are fulfilled with regular gameplay. This is just a clip of the hotel room where you'll be staying during your investigation. Now here you have things like a phone to save the game, a typewriter to keep the progress reports on the actual story as it's happening. You can also sleep here and rest. You can change your outfit and send outfits to the dry cleaners. and you can do things like check your weapons also. These options are available at other points in the game and other locations, but this will be where you'll be primarily using them. As I mentioned before, the progress reports that you keep at the typewriter, I won't actually show you these because there might be too much risk of a spoiler alert in it, but the way that they're done in a sort of Hotel Dusk style, where you occasionally get asked what happened in this situation and you have to enter the correct response to progress with the report. Occasionally throughout the story you're going to go into these sort of dream-like sequences where you'll find out a little bit about York's history and just kind of reflect on certain things that have happened in the storyline lately. There are also classic puzzle elements to this, which is really nice to see come back to a survival horror game. Remember in old games like Resident Evil, where you'll have over complex puzzles just to open a simple door, but really does add to the sort of fun and gameplay. Like in the Grand Theft Auto games, you have a huge map for Deadly Premonition, and your storyline will take place at different points throughout this. As I mentioned, you will drive between these locations yourself, so you really have the freedom to explore this whole map as you're going through it. The map does zoom in and you can cycle through and move around different locations, and one thing you are going to notice is that when you go over certain locations it'll tell you where people are at that point of time. They will move around the daily activities throughout the game, which is another really interesting point. If you have to meet someone at a certain location, you can actually observe them from earlier on and see them head to the meeting point at the time you arranged to meet. The world in Deadly Premonition, as you're driving around this map to different locations within it, reminds you of what was originally promised with the Alan Wake games before they changed that into a more linear game. This sticks with the open world element and really does give you a sense that it's your investigation you're carrying out and you're going around all these different locations investigating. One of the things I most enjoyed about the game was definitely the story and the characters themselves. Throughout the different mix of gameplay and different scenarios that you see the different characters in, you really feel like you get to know some of them. You'll be carrying out your investigation with them during the day and then socialising with them in bars or restaurants on a night time as well. One thing this game never claimed to be from the start was a big budget blockbuster of a game. It was released at quite a low price to begin with, and I'm sure now you can pick up for quite cheap and you'll definitely get your money's worth of this. Now Deadly Premonition's not really a long game, sort of casually playing. You can expect to finish it in between maybe 1 to 2 weeks depending on the difficulty level. For those of you that want to sort of extend the gameplay, there's also things like collecting cards throughout the game, or you can kick up the difficulty a notch as well. Overall, this is a very enjoyable survival horror game with lots of different aspects to it. A really interesting story, great characters. Music's a little repetitive, but it's quite good. There's some quirky little tunes like the one in the background here. I really did enjoy Deadly Premonition. Some of the things that stood out the most to me were definitely the story and the characters. I really did enjoy the gameplay. The driving was also really fun for me. The music was really quirky and fit well with the rest of the game. The graphics weren't brilliant, but I enjoyed them, and after a while I didn't even notice that they weren't really current generation. It's a really, really good game, and I advise anyone to pick it up, especially as it's quite cheap now.
Sure, that's one way of looking at it, but it's totally wrong. Listen, they both need each other. It's called interdependency, and they both know it. Yeah, I know. He does terrible things to Tom, nasty, even sadistic things. But that's fine, as long as that's what Tom wants. Think of it. His actions. He's always asking for it. It's his partner's job to fulfill that need, and Jerry knows that. Proof? Well, in the Tom and Jerry show, they live with each other. Hello? Hello? I can't believe the Bureau still can't get me a satellite phone. making me go to another town in the boondocks again. Well, I'll be a happy camper, even if it ends up being a waste of time. At the very least, it'll get me into the cramped city for a while. Right, Zach? The perpetrator from the last case clearly was something. Who'd have thought there'd be razors laced into your nails? Crazy. Just crazy. Well, at least I now have a scar to show off. See this? I got this when I arrested the Catwoman wannabe. Women, they're crazy. Don't you agree, Zach?